I had always thought that my marriage to Lisa was solid. We were gearing up to celebrate our 20th anniversary, and there was a lot of excitement in the air. Sure, like any couple, we had our ups and downs, but I believed we had a deep connection that could weather any storm. We were the kind of couple that friends admired, always laughing, holding hands, and making time for each other, even if life got busy. But lately, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I sensed a distance between us. Lisa had been acting strangely, more secretive, less engaged in our conversations. It was subtle at first, but as the weeks passed, it became more pronounced. The week leading up to our anniversary was particularly odd. I noticed Lisa was more focused on the party planning than our actual relationship. She seemed anxious and distracted, often texting late at night when I was winding down from a long day at work. When I asked her about it, she'd wave me off with a dismissive, "Oh, it's just the catering. You know how it is." I wanted to believe her, but a nagging feeling lingered in the back of my mind. On the day of our anniversary, I decided to surprise her. I got off work early to pick up a cake from her favorite bakery, red velvet, just like she liked it. I thought it would be a great addition to our celebration. The plan was to come home, set the table with candles, and surprise her before the guests arrived. I was excited about the look on her face when she saw the cake. When I arrived home, I noticed Lisa's car was in the driveway, but I also saw another vehicle, a catering van. My heart sank a little. I figured she must have hired someone to help with the party, but as I walked through the front door, the sound of laughter caught my attention. It came from the kitchen. I froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. I felt a mix of confusion and apprehension. I quietly set the cake down on the table and walked towards the kitchen. I peeked around the corner, and what I saw shattered my heart into a million pieces. Lisa was in the pantry, her back pressed against the shelves, while a man, clearly the caterer, was kissing her deeply. My breath caught in my throat, a wave of nausea washing over me as reality set in. She was cheating on me in our home with the caterer preparing our anniversary party. The moment felt surreal, like a scene from a terrible movie. I wanted to scream, to confront them right then and there, but my feet felt glued to the floor. Instead, I turned around and walked back to the living room, my mind racing. I had to process what I had just seen. I had built a life with this woman. The thoughts of our children, our memories, all the promises we made to each other washed over me like a tidal wave. I was angry, so angry. I wanted to confront her immediately, but a small part of me wanted to wait and see how she would handle this moment when the truth inevitably came out. I felt like a fool, stumbling blindly through a fog of disbelief and betrayal. Did I really not see this coming? After packing the living room for a few minutes, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I'd had enough of standing in the shadows. I marched back to the kitchen, my heart pounding in my chest. What was I going to say? How was I going to confront her? The questions swirled in my mind, but one thing was clear. I needed answers. I stepped into the kitchen, my presence palpable, and cleared my throat loudly. The laughter died down abruptly, and both of them turned to look at me. Lisa's face went pale. I could see the panic rising within her. The caterer, a tall guy with messy hair and a charming smile, tried to step back, but the damage was done. I was there and they both knew it. "Surprise," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Is this the anniversary gift I didn't know I was getting?" Lisa opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The caterer shifted nervously, glancing back and forth between us. I didn't care about him. All my focus was on Lisa, the woman I thought I knew so well. "Care to explain what's going on?" I demanded, feeling the anger boil over. Her reaction was immediate, but it wasn't what I expected. Instead of a confession, she smirked, that bitchy smile I had grown to loathe, and said, "It's not what it looks like." I could feel my heart drop. "Really? Because it looks pretty clear to me, Lisa." The tension in the kitchen was thick, and all I could think was how my life had just taken a catastrophic turn. Lisa glanced nervously at the caterer, then back at me, clearly trying to find the right words. "Listen, Eric, this isn't what you think. We were just what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Just having a little fun in the pantry. Should I be thankful you saved it for our home?" She opened her mouth to respond, but the words didn't come. I could see the wheels turning in her head, searching for an excuse that might salvage some semblance of her dignity. The caterer stood awkwardly, his face turning a shade of crimson, clearly regretting whatever he'd gotten himself into. "Eric," Lisa finally said, her voice slightly shaky as she attempted to regain her composure. "I've been stressed about the party. It's been a lot of pressure." "We were just what, Lisa?" I spat. "You were just getting your kicks while I thought we were preparing to celebrate 20 years together. What kind of pressure justifies cheating?" The caterer, sensing the hostility, took a step back, his hands raised in a half-hearted defense. "I think I should go," he said, glancing nervously between us. "No, you don't get to run away," I shouted, my eyes still locked on Lisa. "You both need to face what's happening here." She shot him a pleading look, but the caterer didn't look back. He took his leave, mumbling something about needing to prepare food. It was just the two of us now, a silence filling the space that had once been filled with laughter and love. Lisa's posture shifted from defiance to something more vulnerable. She folded her arms across her chest, almost protectively. "You don't understand, Eric. Things have been different between us lately. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again." That struck me like a punch to the gut. "Different? You mean the distance you've created, the late-night texts, the secretive behavior? You didn't think I'd notice. I didn't think you cared," she retorted, her voice rising as frustration bubbled to the surface. "You're always busy with work. You don't see me anymore, Eric. I've felt so alone." Anger surged through me, but beneath it lay a growing sadness. I had been busy, but I thought we were in this together. I never imagined she would seek comfort elsewhere. "So you decided to cheat. That's how you handle feeling alone, by bringing someone else into our lives." Lisa stepped forward, her eyes pleading. "I made a mistake, I know that now, but that man, he's not important. What matters is us. We can work through this." My heart sank even further. "Work through what?" "The fact that you betrayed me. You brought another man into our home, into our lives, right before our anniversary. What kind of person does that?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I could see the realization hit her. She didn't have a defense that would wash away the gravity of what she'd done. "Eric, I'm sorry," she said finally, her voice softer now, but the pain in her eyes didn't lessen the hurt I felt. "I was desperate to feel something again. It was a stupid mistake. I love you, I always have." "Love?" I scoffed. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. I can't just forget this because you feel guilty now." The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal and heartbreak. Every moment spent together, every memory we had made over the years came crashing down around me. I thought about our children, our life, our dreams. Everything felt tainted now. Lisa stepped closer, trying to reach for my hand, but I instinctively pulled away. "Don't touch me," I said. "You've lost that right." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a brief moment I almost felt sorry for her, but that feeling was quickly overshadowed by my own pain. "What do you want me to do, Eric? I'll do anything, just tell me." I shook my head. "You had your chance, you made your choice, and now I have to figure out mine." The anger within me simmered, but it was accompanied by an overwhelming sense of loss. How could I move forward from this? I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, and the path ahead seemed bleak and uncertain. As I walked away from her, I could hear her sobs echoing in the kitchen. I couldn't process it all at once. Every part of me wanted to scream, to cry, to demand an explanation that would never come. Instead, I felt numb, as if part of me had been cut away. I went to the living room and sank into the couch, my mind racing. The cake sat on the table, a cruel reminder of what should have been a celebration. I couldn't look at it. I felt a wave of anger rise again, mixed with disbelief. How had I been so blind? As I sat there, I began to realize that I couldn't stay in this place of anger forever. I had to decide what I wanted. Did I want to confront this head-on? Was there any hope for us? Or was it time to start fresh, to move on and reclaim my life? I had to think, to figure out my next step. But for now, all I could do was sit in the silence of my own home, grappling with the reality that the life I knew had just shattered into pieces. I spent the next few hours in a haze, replaying the events over and over in my mind. Lisa's words echoed in my head, her desperate pleas and half-hearted apologies ringing hollow. I felt a cocktail of emotions: Anger, betrayal, confusion, but above all, a profound sense of grief. Grief for the marriage I thought I had, for the love I believed we shared, and for the future I had envisioned for us. I looked around the living room, taking in the decorations we had put up just days before, the streamers, the balloons, the photos from our past anniversaries. Each image told a story of a time when we were happy, and the contrast to what was happening now felt unbearable. I stood up and began to remove the decorations, my movements methodical, almost robotic. It was as if I was trying to erase any trace of the happy occasion that had turned into a nightmare. As I tore down the streamers, I heard Lisa sniffling from the kitchen. For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it was quickly snuffed out by the memory of what she had done. She had chosen to betray me, to seek validation from someone else. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could she do this to us, to our family? Finally, I couldn't take the noise any longer. I stormed into the kitchen where Lisa was still seated on the floor, her back against the cabinets, tears streaming down her face. "What do you want from me, Eric?" she asked, her voice raw and trembling. "I want honesty," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I want to understand how you could do this. How could you betray me in our own home? You could have talked to me, Lisa. If you felt alone, I would have listened." "I was scared," she cried. "I didn't know how to reach out. Everything felt so distant, and then he was there. I thought maybe I could feel something again, anything, and I was wrong. So wrong. Scared." I echoed, incredulity lacing my voice. "You thought cheating was the solution. You had no regard for the sanctity of our marriage or the family we built together." She fell silent, her face buried in her hands as sobs racked her body. For a moment I felt a twinge of guilt for being so harsh, but it quickly dissipated. I had to stand my ground. I couldn't let her manipulate the narrative to make me feel sorry for her. "Eric, please," she finally said, her voice muffled. "I'm so sorry. I know I messed up, but I love you. I want to fix this. I don't want to lose you." "Love isn't enough, Lisa," I said, my heart aching at the truth of those words. "You've shattered my trust. I can't just forget what happened because you're crying now. Those feelings don't disappear with a few tears." I could see the realization dawning on her face, the weight of the situation settling in. "So what do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, my mind racing as I considered my options. The thought of walking away from our life together felt like staring into a void. But what did I have left? The love we built felt tainted, and the idea of staying in this toxic environment seemed unbearable. "I don't know," I admitted. "I need time to think." "We both need time. I can't make any decisions when I'm this angry and hurt." Lisa nodded, her eyes pleading for me to change my mind, but I couldn't. I had to put my own feelings first for once. I stood up, my heart heavy, and walked back to the living room. I needed space to breathe, to think without the weight of her sorrow pressing down on me. As the hours dragged on, I was enveloped in a suffocating silence, punctuated only by the occasional sound of her sobs from the kitchen. I tried to distract myself with mundane tasks, cleaning the kitchen, checking my emails, scrolling through social media, but I found no solace in any of it. My mind kept circling back to the moment I saw her in the pantry, to the betrayal that felt like a dagger to my heart. As night fell, I decided I needed to leave the house. It felt stifling, like being trapped in a cage with memories I wasn't ready to face. I grabbed my car keys and headed out, ignoring the way Lisa's eyes followed me, full of desperation and confusion. I drove aimlessly, the streets of our town blurring past me. My thoughts raced as I processed everything that had happened. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, a good father, and now it felt like all of that had been ripped away in an instant. I found myself parked at a quiet spot by the riverside, a place where Lisa and I used to come for picnics and walks. The moonlight danced over the water, but it brought me no peace. I felt empty, like a shell of the man I used to be. In that solitude, I allowed myself to feel anger, sadness, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. As I sat there, I began to formulate a plan. I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. I had to decide if I was willing to fight for my marriage, or if it was time to cut my losses and move on. The thought of starting over felt daunting, but the thought of staying in a relationship built on betrayal felt suffocating. I knew I needed to talk to Lisa again, to confront my feelings, but I wasn't ready yet. I had to gather my thoughts, reflect on what I wanted, and decide how I would move forward from this moment. As I drove back home, I braced myself for the conversation that awaited us. Whatever happened next would shape the course of our lives. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of determination rise within me. I would reclaim my life, whether it meant fighting for my marriage or embarking on a new journey. Either way, I wouldn't let this betrayal define me. When I got home, the house was eerily quiet. The kitchen light was still on, casting a harsh glow over the space that now felt foreign to me. I stood in the doorway for a moment, gathering my thoughts and preparing myself for what was to come. I could hear Lisa's muffled sobs from somewhere in the house, and it twisted my heart in knots. I had to confront her, but the thought made my stomach churn. I took a deep breath and walked toward the kitchen, where she was still sitting on the floor, her face buried in her hands. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but I knew I couldn't keep avoiding her. I needed to establish boundaries. I had to let her know how serious this was. "Lisa," I said, my voice steady but firm. She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy from crying. I could see the pain etched on her face, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but I quickly pushed it aside. I had to stay focused on what I needed to express. "I've thought a lot about everything that happened today," I continued, my heart racing. "I want you to know that I need space. This can't be fixed overnight. Hurt, and I don't know how to feel right now." "I understand," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't want to pressure you. I want to explain. I want to make this right." "I don't think you can make this right, Lisa," I replied, shaking my head. "You've broken my trust in a way that I can't just ignore. This isn't something we can sweep under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. It happened, and it changed everything." She pressed her lips together, fighting back more tears. "I know. I'm so sorry, Eric. I wish I could." "Take it back. You have to believe that." "Believe what? That you love me," I shot back. "Because love isn't supposed to hurt like this. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let it go this far. You wouldn't have sought comfort from someone else instead of coming to me." "I was wrong. I admit that," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought I was reaching out for something I'd lost, but I was so foolish. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Didn't mean for it to go this far," I echoed incredulously. "You let it happen, Lisa. You made a conscious decision to betray me. You didn't just stumble into this, you chose it." She looked down, her hands shaking. "You're right, I can't defend myself. I wish I could take it back. I was feeling lost and I made a terrible choice, but I still love you. I want us back. I want to get through this." I ran a hand through my hair, frustration boiling inside me. I wish it could be that simple, but it's not. I need to think about whether I want to fight for this marriage or if it's healthier for me to move on. I don't want to live in a constant state of doubt and pain. Lisa nodded slowly, her eyes pleading. "I understand. I'll give you whatever time you need. Just please don't give up on us. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." "Earning back my trust isn't something you can do overnight," I replied, my voice heavy. "It's going to take time, and right now I need to focus on myself." The weight of the conversation hung in the air, thick and palpable. I felt the heaviness of what we were facing, and it was suffocating. I didn't want to feel like this anymore. I wanted to reclaim my life, to find clarity amidst the chaos. "Let's sleep on this for now," I said finally, trying to bring a sense of calm to the moment. "I think it's best if we keep our distance for the time being." Lisa looked down, her expression a mix of resignation and heartbreak. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight." I nodded, and as she turned away, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. I watched her retreat into the guest room, closing the door behind her. In that moment, I felt like I was losing a piece of myself. I spent the rest of the night tossing and turning in bed, unable to shake the images of what had happened. My mind raced as I replayed the events like a broken record. I was exhausted, but sleep eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see Lisa in the pantry, laughing with another man. The betrayal was raw, like a fresh wound that refused to heal. The next morning, I woke up early, determined to clear my head. I decided to take a long walk to the coffee shop around the corner. The cool morning air hit my face as I stepped outside, and with each breath I tried to shake off the weight of yesterday. I needed to think. I needed to figure out my next steps. As I walked, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, but also a flicker of hope. I realized that I had the power to choose my own path, regardless of how painful it would be. I had to confront my feelings and decide if I was willing to fight for my marriage or if it was time to let go. After grabbing my coffee, I found a quiet park nearby and sat on a bench. I took a deep breath and sipped my drink, allowing the caffeine to work its magic. I thought about my life before this betrayal, the dreams we had shared, the plans we had made for our future. But then I remembered the pain. I remembered Lisa's betrayal and the uncertainty that now loomed over our lives. The question nagged at me, could I truly forgive her? Did I even want to? As I sat there, I realized that I needed to talk to someone. I needed support. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts, landing on my best friend, Mike. He had always been my sounding board, the one who offered perspective without judgment. I sent him a quick message. Can we meet up? I need to talk. A moment later, he replied, of course, coffee at our usual place. I agreed and made my way back home, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I needed to vent, to process what I was feeling, and Mike would understand. He always did. I stepped back into the house, the familiar surroundings feeling more like a stranger to me. I spotted Lisa in the kitchen, her expression a mix of hope and fear as our eyes met. Good morning, she said softly. Morning, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. I'm meeting Mike for coffee. I'll be back later. She nodded slowly, disappointment flickering across her face, but I didn't have it in me to comfort her. I walked out the door, feeling the weight of my decision pressing down on me. I was determined to find clarity. As I drove to the coffee shop, I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. I knew I needed to confront my feelings, to figure out what was next. Whatever happened moving forward, I would be ready to face it head-on. It was time to reclaim my life, no matter how difficult that would be. When I arrived at the coffee shop, I spotted Mike sitting at our usual table near the window, a steaming cup of coffee in front of him. He looked up as I approached, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. Hey man, you look like you've been through a war. What's going on? I sank into the chair across from him, running a hand through my hair as I let out a deep breath. You have no idea, I replied. I don't even know where to start. Just spill it, Mike said, leaning forward, his eyes focused on me. I'm here for you, whatever it is. I hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of everything I had to share. So you know how Lisa and I were gearing up to celebrate our 20th anniversary. He nodded, a hint of a smile on his face. Yeah, I remember you telling me about the plans. Exciting stuff, right? Yeah, well, exciting took a turn for the worse, I said, my voice heavy with emotion. I walked in on her cheating on me with the caterer that was supposed to be preparing our anniversary party. Mike's face turned serious, shock replacing the smile. Oh man, I'm so sorry. That's brutal. What did you do? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as I recounted the events of the previous day, the unexpected encounter in the pantry, the confrontation that followed, and Lisa's hollow apologies. She claims she was feeling alone and lost, but it doesn't excuse what she did. Mike listened intently, nodding along as I spoke. Have you thought about what you want to do? I mean, how do you feel? I looked down at my coffee, swirling the contents thoughtfully. I'm angry. I feel betrayed. I trusted her and she shattered that trust in one moment. But I also feel a sense of loss, not just for the marriage, but for the life we built together. It's all so complex. Of course it is, Mike said gently. It's a huge blow, but you have to think about what's best for you. Can you see a way forward with her after this? I hesitated again, weighing my options. I don't know. Part of me wants to fight for our marriage to see if we can rebuild that trust. But another part of me feels like I'll always be looking over my shoulder, wondering if she'll do it again. I can't live like that. Totally understandable, Mike replied. You're allowed to feel hurt and confused, but you need to think about whether you can forgive her. Can she ever be the person you need her to be after this? I don't even know if I want to try, I admitted, my voice cracking. There's so much pain and I can't pretend like everything is fine when it's not. I just feel lost. Have you talked to her since the confrontation? Mike asked. Just briefly. I told her I needed space, but she's been texting me, pleading for another chance, I replied. It's hard to ignore the history we have, the love we once shared, but it's all overshadowed by this betrayal. I don't know how to process it. Maybe it's time to make a decision about what you want, Mike suggested. You deserve happiness, man. If you think you can't find that with her anymore, it might be time to consider moving on. His words echoed in my mind, and for the first time I allowed myself to think about it seriously. What if I walked away? What if I chose to prioritize my own well-being instead of clinging to the remnants of a marriage that had been tainted by betrayal? I need to talk to her again, I said finally, my voice stronger than before. I need to set some boundaries and let her know where I stand. If we're going to have any hope of moving forward, she needs to understand how serious this is. Mike nodded, his expression supportive. That sounds like a good idea. Just remember to be honest with her about how you feel. You deserve that. I finished my coffee, feeling a sense of clarity begin to emerge from the fog of confusion. I appreciated Mike being there for me. His support helped me process my emotions and gave me the courage to face my next steps head-on. As I drove back home, I felt a mix of determination and anxiety. I knew the conversation ahead would be crucial, and I had to be prepared for whatever Lisa was going to throw my way. It wouldn't be easy, but I needed to reclaim my life, and I couldn't allow fear to dictate my decisions. When I walked through the door, I found Lisa sitting in the living room, her eyes red from crying, but there was a new look of determination on her face. "Hey, can we talk?" she asked, her voice wavering slightly. "Yeah, we need to," I replied, my heart racing. "I've been thinking a lot about everything lately, and I need to be clear about where I stand." She nodded, visibly nervous, and motioned for me to sit down. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "First, I want you to know that I appreciate your willingness to talk," I began. "But I need you to understand how much this hurt me. What you did destroyed my trust, and it's going to take a lot more than apologies to fix it." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up, Eric. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen, and I never wanted to hurt you." "Sorry isn't enough anymore," I replied, my tone firm but calm. "You need to understand the gravity of your actions. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. I need to process this, and I need you to respect that." "I promise I will," she said quickly. "I'll do anything to earn your trust back. I'm willing to go to therapy to talk about our issues. I just want a chance to show you how sorry I am." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I also felt a wave of skepticism wash over me. Therapy is a step in the right direction, but it's not a quick fix. We need to have honest conversations about our relationship and what led you to make the choices you did. I can't just go back to how things were. I need to know we can rebuild. "I understand," she said, tears shining in her eyes. "I'll commit to that. I want to do whatever it takes to make it work." "Then we need to take this slow," I replied, my heart heavy with uncertainty. "I'm not ready to forgive you yet, and I can't promise that I will, but I'm willing to try if you're willing to put in the effort." Lisa nodded fervently, relief washing over her face. "I'll do everything I can to prove to you that I can. Be the partner you deserve. I want to make this right." The conversation continued, filled with raw honesty and vulnerability. As we talked, I felt a glimmer of hope begin to emerge amidst the pain. It wouldn't be easy, and I knew there would be difficult days ahead, but perhaps we could find a way to move forward together. As we wrapped up our conversation, I realized that while the road ahead would be rocky, the fact that we were willing to face it together was a crucial first step. I didn't know what the future held, but I was ready to take it one day at a time. It was the first step toward reclaiming my life, my happiness, and perhaps even my marriage. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotional ups and downs. Lisa and I dove into open and honest discussions, sometimes painful but necessary. We started attending couples therapy, which felt like stepping onto a battlefield armed with vulnerability. Each session forced us to confront the raw truths of our relationship, the cracks that had formed over the years, and the betrayal that had shattered our trust. In therapy, Lisa opened up about her feelings of isolation and the pressures she felt leading up to our anniversary. She admitted that she had been overwhelmed and had sought validation from the wrong place. Listening to her, I felt a mixture of empathy and anger. I understood that she was struggling, but her actions had consequences that we were now forced to navigate together. As we worked through our issues, I found myself grappling with my own feelings. I had to confront not just the pain of her betrayal, but also the reasons I had let myself be blind to the cracks in our marriage. I realized that I had been so focused on work and providing for our family that I had neglected the emotional connection that had once been our foundation. With each therapy session, we began to rebuild. It was a slow and arduous process, filled with moments of regression, but also flashes of hope. We learned to communicate again, to express our needs and feelings without fear of judgment. On days when I felt overwhelmed, I would remind myself that healing wouldn't happen overnight. It took time, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. One afternoon, after a particularly intensive session, I came home feeling emotionally drained. Lisa was in the kitchen preparing dinner, a sight that used to bring me joy. Now it felt like a cautious step forward. I watched her chop vegetables, the rhythmic motion a reminder of the domestic life we once shared so comfortably. "Hey," she said, glancing up at me with a tentative smile. "How was your day?" I sighed, leaning against the countertop. "It was tough, but I think we're making progress. There's a long way to go, though." "I know," she replied softly. "I'm grateful you're willing to try. I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in her voice tugged at me. I wanted to believe that we could come out of this stronger, if not as the couple we once were, then as something new. I stepped closer, taking a deep breath. "I want that too, but it's going to take time, and I need you to understand that I'm still processing everything." "Absolutely," she said, nodding earnestly. "I'll be patient, I promise." As the days turned into weeks, we began to find our rhythm again. We started to reconnect, not just as husband and wife, but as two individuals learning to support each other. We went on date nights again, slowly reintroducing the laughter and lightness that had once filled our home. Our children noticed the change, and it filled us both with a sense of purpose. We were fighting for our family, and that mattered. However, it wasn't always easy. There were days when the shadows of doubt crept back in, and I would catch myself questioning if I could truly forgive her. I would replay the betrayal in my mind, feeling the anger bubble up again. But I learned to confront those feelings head-on. I discussed them with Lisa, and she listened, really listened, offering her own feelings of remorse and guilt. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I turned to her. "Sometimes I still feel this knot in my stomach when I think about what happened. It's hard to shake that." "I understand," she said quietly. "I feel it too. But we're working on this, and I'll fight for you every day if it means rebuilding what we lost." In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope. I realized that while the past could not be changed, our future was still unwritten. We had been granted a second chance, and it was up to us to seize it. As the months passed, we found ourselves embarking on a new chapter. It was filled with uncertainty, but also with renewed commitment. I could see Lisa making an effort to prioritize our relationship, and I was determined to do the same. We began exploring new interests together, taking weekend trips and learning to communicate without the walls that had once divided us. One day, as we hiked a familiar trail, I looked over at Lisa, her hair catching the sunlight in a way that reminded me of the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I can see you trying," I said, meaning every word, "and I appreciate that." "I'm trying to be the partner you deserve," she replied, her smile warm. "I know I've hurt you, but I want to earn your trust back. I want us to thrive, not just survive." "I want that too," I said, feeling a swell of emotion. "I believe we can do this." As we reached the summit of the trail, we paused to take in the view. The landscape stretched out before us, vast and beautiful. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of clarity. We were not just a couple recovering from a betrayal. We were two people willing to confront our past and build a future together. I knew it wouldn't always be easy. There would be challenges ahead, but we were determined to face them together. Our journey would be filled with ups and downs, but we were committed to navigating it side by side. As we descended the trail, I felt a newfound sense of purpose. I was ready to embrace the uncertainty of our future, knowing that we were both willing to fight for our marriage. It wouldn't be the same as it once was, but perhaps in that transformation, we would find something even more beautiful, a deeper love born from resilience and understanding. And just like that, I found a sense of peace. We were moving forward together, and that was enough for me.